A millionaire abandons his fiancée just before their wedding, and when he meets her again with triplets, he's shocked by what she reveals. Inside a stifling greenhouse where the heat made the air almost unbearable, a young woman worked diligently. She was transplanting tomato seedlings, gently turning the soil around the roots, and then watering each newly planted one with care. Her shirt was soaked with sweat, clinging to her body while small drops ran down her forehead. Strands of her curly hair escaped from a colorful scarf, which was as wet as the rest of her clothes. The older workers around her couldn't stop praising her. "You're truly dedicated, Laura. You work with such care and responsibility. You'll make an excellent housewife. It's about time to think about marriage, you know? Have you noticed how Ricardo has been looking at you?" Before we continue with the story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any of our touching narratives. Laura straightened her tired back, massaging the spot where she felt pain, and replied with a playful smile. "Why would I be interested in Ricardo? He follows me everywhere, but he's such a rude guy. I can't bring myself to like him. Besides, my heart already belongs to someone else. But that's a secret that everyone in this small town already knows," Clara thought to herself but didn't say out loud. After finishing her work in the greenhouse, Laura went to a small shed, changed her clothes, and washed her face. She got on her bicycle and decided to take the path across the fields to her grandmother's house. The rural road was shorter, and Laura always loved pedaling there, feeling the gentle breeze on her face, bringing a sense of freedom. As she rode, the wind blew through her hair, and the calm of the countryside completely enveloped her. There was no one around, and Laura felt at peace. As she pedaled through the fields, Laura saw the farmer's jeep cutting through the green landscape. When the vehicle approached her, it stopped abruptly, and a tall, sturdy man got out. Laura leaned her bike against the side of the path and ran into the arms of her beloved, hugging him tightly. He greeted her with a passionate kiss, pulling her closer, and said with a smile, "Hello, my dear, finally together again. Admit it, you missed me, didn't you?" Laura blushed and murmured softly, "Yes, I missed you so much, Miguel. When are we going to stop hiding and tell everyone about our love? I can't keep going like this. It feels like you don't love me or that you're ashamed of me." Miguel changed the subject, trying to steer the conversation while kissing her lovingly on the neck. "Why do you say that? Don't you feel how much I love you? Every time I see you, I long for your embrace. Aren't we happy together? Look, I brought something special for you from the city. You have to try it." Laura took the bag he handed her, opened it, and pulled out a delicate white lace blouse. "Oh, thank you, Miguel. It's so beautiful," Laura exclaimed with joy. She put on the blouse immediately and, with a playful air, asked, "Does it look good on me? I need to wear it to a party. I'm sure all the girls will be so jealous. Let's go to the party this Saturday. Please, Miguel." "I won't be able to go this Saturday. I promised my dad I'd accompany him to an important meeting. You can go to the party alone and have fun, but not for too long, or I'll end up feeling jealous," Miguel said with a sly smile. Laura sighed but avoided arguing with her beloved. She loved him deeply and feared losing him. The couple hugged and kissed passionately, and at that moment, Laura felt complete happiness with Miguel. All of life's challenges seemed to disappear. She returned home with a light heart, as if the day's work hadn't been so exhausting. Her grandmother, always observant, soon noticed her change in mood and, with a disapproving tone, began to speak. "Laura, you were with Miguel again, weren't you? Why do you keep insisting on this? You should think it over. He doesn't talk about marriage or make an effort to introduce you to his family. What will you do when he gets tired of you and leaves you for someone else?" "Grandma, please don't talk like that. I love Miguel and he loves me too. Look at what he brought me today. Isn't it beautiful? I've never had such a pretty blouse, and still you say he doesn't care about me. I'm sure he'll introduce me to his parents soon. We're gonna get married, yes. Now let me help you a bit. Let's water the flowers in the garden. Laura replied, trying to ease her grandmother's worries with a smile. Clara, the grandmother, sighed. She knew her granddaughter well and understood that arguing with Laura wouldn't help much. With a tight hug, Clara patted Laura's hair, but her heart was heavy. She knew that Miguel's parents would never accept her granddaughter as a daughter-in-law, and that worried her deeply. In their small town, gossip spread quickly, and she feared for Laura's future. However, the young woman seemed to ignore her grandmother's warnings. Her mind focused only on dreaming about her next meeting with Miguel. Laura's love for Miguel began the first time she saw him when she came to ask for a job at his family's farm. That day, Miguel was unloading boxes brought from the city. When he saw her, he stopped what he was doing, looked her up and down, raised an eyebrow and whistled. With a mischievous smile, he said, "Hi, beautiful. What's your name? I like you." Laura was embarrassed. Her cheeks turned red, and she could barely manage to respond coherently. Miguel's father, noticing the scene, quickly reprimanded him. "Miguel, stop that. I need workers, not trouble. Don't waste time with her. And you, young lady, don't delude yourself into thinking you can get close to my son. Give me your documents. I'll register you for the job." After that, Laura avoided looking at Miguel when they were in public, even though her heart raced every time he was around. He was confident, bold, the type of man who wouldn't take no for an answer. On a rainy day, as Laura was walking home, a storm broke out. Miguel pulled up beside her in his car, and as he rolled down the window, he said with a smile, "Hey, beautiful, get in. I'll take you home so you don't get soaked." Laura hesitated but eventually accepted the ride. When she got into the car, still shivering from the cold, Miguel gently pulled her close and, without warning, kissed her passionately. "You're mine. I won't let anyone else have you," he whispered. Laura was surprised by his intensity but soon surrendered to the moment. From then on, they began meeting in secret. Miguel was passionate, always claiming that she was the only one in his life, and Laura believed him. He was the first man she had loved, and that love grew day by day. Laura dreamed of the moment Miguel would talk about their relationship to his family and worked hard on the farm, hoping to win his mother's favor. But then reality knocked on the door. Laura discovered she was pregnant. It was something she had feared, despite all the precautions they took. The idea of having the baby filled her with love, as it was the child of the man she adored, but it also terrified her. What if Miguel's parents refused to accept the marriage? Clara, her grandmother, had always urged her to be cautious. Laura knew she needed to tell Miguel everything. That day, it was time to make a decision about the future and the baby. When she finally revealed the news, Miguel reacted with an unexpected calm. "What? You're pregnant?" Miguel was momentarily stunned but quickly composed himself and said with determination, "Don't worry, Laura. I would never leave you alone. Tomorrow we'll go to the registry office to start the marriage license process. As for my parents, leave that to me. They might not like it at first, but they'll have to accept it." Laura felt a deep relief and hugged Miguel tightly. "Thank you, Miguel. I was so nervous, thinking you might abandon me because of this news. I promise I'll be the best wife you could have," Laura said, her voice choked with emotion. The next day, the couple discreetly went to the registry office to start the marriage process. That evening, Miguel decided to tell his parents, which triggered a storm at home. His mother, beside herself, screamed so loudly it seemed like the whole town could hear. "What have you done, Miguel? Why do you want to tie yourself to her? She's a girl without a family, raised by her grandmother with no status. She's not suitable for our family. And who's to say this child is yours? She might be involved with another man. If you go through with this madness, you'll be on your own. Your father and I won't support you." "Mom, how can you say that? I've already promised Laura that we'll get married in a week. I really love her," Miguel countered firmly. "As for the wedding, I'll handle everything on my own. I'm not asking anything from you. There will be no wedding nor this child," Miguel's father declared coldly. Meanwhile, Laura was radiant, confident that she would soon be Miguel's wife and have the family she had always dreamed of. The next day, she arrived at work early, but before she could even start, she was surprised by the presence of Roberto, Miguel's father, at the door. He looked at her with a frosty gaze and said in an authoritative tone, "Laura, come to my office. We need to talk." Laura, unsuspecting of what was to come, felt a glimmer of hope, believing the conversation might be about the wedding. But the reality was much darker. "Laura, Miguel told us about the situation, including the pregnancy. Don't think this will guarantee you a place in our family because it won't. There will be no wedding, and we will never recognize this child. I'm offering you money to have an abortion and leave this town immediately. The farther you are, the better. Is that clear? Now get out of my office. You no longer work here," Roberto declared with no trace of empathy. Roberto's words hit Laura like a knife. She felt a deep pain and humiliation. "Why? Miguel promised me. We love each other and we've applied for the marriage license. I've never been with another man besides Miguel. Why is he doing this? I'm not going to end my baby's life. He's your grandson, and I don't need your money." Roberto, furious, slammed his hand on the desk. "If you don't do what I'm telling you, you'll regret it. Tomorrow, everyone in this town will know that you've been with other men and don't even know who the father is. The choice is yours, but it won't be with Miguel. We don't want poor relatives in our family. Now, get out of here, or are you deaf? And take your last paycheck." Laura left the office with tears in her eyes, holding the money and documents Roberto had given her. The other workers watched her in silence, unsure of how to react. Laura couldn't believe that Miguel had betrayed her. In her heart, she tried to convince herself that he wasn't to blame, that it was all his parents' doing. She tried to call Miguel to talk, but he didn't answer the first few calls. When he finally did, he spoke coldly. "There is no future for us anymore. You should think about ending the pregnancy and leaving everything behind. I won't upset my father over this. I'm sorry, but we both have our share of the blame." With those words, Miguel hung up, and Laura felt her world collapse. Her life had changed drastically in a matter of minutes. She couldn't bear to tell her grandmother about the pregnancy, fearing that the shock could affect her health, especially considering the heart problem she faced. Laura washed her face, trying to hide her despair, and started packing her things quickly. "I'm sorry, Grandma, but I need to move to another city. It's necessary. I'll find a new job there, and everything will be okay. I'll write and call you as soon as I can. I have some money now. I just got my last paycheck. Please don't come to say goodbye. I love you, Grandma," Laura said, struggling not to cry. They hugged tightly, and Clara, with tears in her eyes, asked, "What happened? I feel like you're hiding something from me. Did you have a fight with Miguel? Why are you leaving so suddenly?" Laura tried to smile despite the pain and replied, "Yes, we had a fight. We broke up. I'm devastated, Grandma. I don't even know if I want to stay here in this town. I need to leave to start over. Everything will be okay. I promise." Clara, Laura's grandmother, felt that maybe it was indeed the best for her granddaughter. She knew that the relationship with the farmer's son wouldn't end happily. Maybe in another city, Laura would find someone who truly valued her and could rebuild her life. The farewell was long and painful. Laura boarded the train, not knowing exactly what she would do next. Tears fell silently as fear and uncertainty about the future filled her heart. She wondered what life would be like in a big city, alone and pregnant. Why had Miguel betrayed her? Maybe her grandmother was right all along, and Miguel never truly loved her. Sitting across from Laura on the train was a robust, friendly, and talkative woman. She soon started a conversation, sharing stories about her life and children. Noticing Laura's tears, she asked why she was so sad. Feeling the need to confide, Laura told her everything while wiping her tears. "I'm heading to the city to find work. I work in the kitchen of a very good businessman's home. They are fair people and always pay on time. Actually, they need a new housekeeper right now. If you want, you can come with me. Maybe they'll hire you. I can't promise anything, but you never know. Just be honest and tell your story like you told me," suggested the woman, who was named Olivia. Laura, feeling she didn't have much to lose, decided to take the chance on the housekeeping job. Olivia seemed trustworthy and genuine in her intentions. An hour later, they arrived at the businessman's house. It was a large, two-story home with charming balconies and a well-kept garden full of flowers and a small fountain in the center. The owner of the house, a middle-aged man named Enrique, greeted them at the door. Noticing Laura's hesitation, Olivia gently nudged her forward and said with a smile, "Good afternoon, Enrique. I've brought a potential new housekeeper for you. She's a hardworking and responsible young woman from a small town. She's looking for a job opportunity, and I believe you could give her a chance. The last housekeeper from the agency wasn't up to par and was more concerned with her nails than with the work. She even ruined your clothes while washing them." Enrique looked at Laura for a few moments before saying, "Come into my office. We need to discuss your qualifications and what you can offer. I generally hesitate to hire young people, as experience has taught me that they often lack responsibility. Here, we need someone who is truly dedicated to the work." Feeling the weight of the situation, Laura handed over her documents and spoke frankly. "I know how to take care of a house. I can maintain the garden, and I'm willing to work without breaks if needed. I promise not to use anything of value without permission, and I'll follow Olivia's guidance. But honestly, I already said that I might not get this job. I can see it in your eyes. I think it's because I'm pregnant. I'm in the early months, and I know that complicates my chances of being hired. No one wants an employee who might not be able to work for long. But I'd rather be honest. I left my town because the baby's father asked me to have an abortion, and I simply couldn't do it." Laura closed her eyes for a moment, bracing herself for the inevitable rejection. After all, who would hire a pregnant woman? But to her surprise, Enrique spoke with unexpected calm. "Laura, you're in a tough situation, and I respect your decision to keep the baby. Not every woman gets that chance. I know it will be difficult for you in this city, but I'm going to give you a chance. It will be a 1-month trial period, and then we'll see how you do. You can stay in the guest house. It has everything you need. But I'll warn you up front. If there are any problems, like dishonesty or serious work issues, the contract will be terminated immediately." "Thank you, sir. I promise I won't let you down. I'll work hard, and I hope you won't regret giving me this chance," Laura replied, feeling a mix of relief and gratitude. After sincerely thanking Olivia and Enrique for the opportunity, Laura began working with determination from the very first day. That evening, she and Olivia sat down for a cup of tea in the guest house. "You know, the boss decided to hire you partly because of your pregnancy," Olivia explained. "He and his wife tried for years to have children without success. They went through every imaginable treatment and even sought help outside conventional medicine, but nothing worked. Recently, they decided to use a surrogate. The young woman will be moving in soon. But here's a piece of advice. Stay out of their problems, especially with the boss's wife. She's very demanding and critical. It's better not to argue with her. Just agree and follow her instructions. Otherwise, you might lose your job. Laura received a uniform and began her new routine, dedicating herself to keeping the house spotless and the garden in perfect shape. Enrique, though strict, proved to be fair and respectful, while his wife, Elisa, was notoriously difficult to deal with. In the first few days, Elisa seemed to test Laura, criticizing every detail of her work and examining every corner for mistakes. Laura endured the criticism in silence, aware that she couldn't afford to lose this job. Soon after, Beatrice, the young woman chosen to be the surrogate, moved into the house. Beatrice seemed uncomfortable, feeling like she was just a means to an end. Her diet was strictly controlled, and she was under constant surveillance from what she ate to the exercises she did. Doctors came to the house regularly to monitor her. Laura felt a deep empathy for Beatrice, recognizing the burden of following such a rigid routine, especially when she felt unwell. One day, Laura heard Beatrice ask for pickles, to which Elisa responded with disdain. These cravings are not allowed. The nutritionist was clear. No salty foods during pregnancy. It's not good for the baby. Feeling sorry for Beatrice, Laura remembered a small jar of pickles she had brought from home. Seizing a moment of privacy, she discreetly handed the jar to Beatrice. Here, I hope this helps. Just don't tell anyone I gave it to you, or Elisa will blame me. I'm pregnant too, so I know how hard it is to resist certain cravings. Beatrice, with a look of relief, thanked Laura. Thank you. I was desperate for something salty, but they keep feeding me salads and fish. I can't stand this diet anymore. In the early days, Beatrice tried to express her wants and needs, but was constantly ignored. Realizing she needed a new approach, she began dressing provocatively, opting for shorter clothes and suggestive glances, especially when Enrique was around. It seemed as though she was deliberately using these strategies, intensifying the already evident tension between Enrique and his wife, Elisa. One afternoon, Elisa entered the room and found Enrique caressing Beatrice's belly, smiling with delight as he felt the baby's movements. That was the last straw. Enrique, what are you doing? Are you starting to get involved with her now? Why did we let this bold girl get so close to our family? Elisa exploded, her voice filled with frustration and jealousy. Enrique, losing patience with the argument, responded sharply. Elisa, don't shout. It's not good for our babies. I was just feeling their movements. You can do it too. It's an incredible feeling. Soon, they'll be with us, and it should be a reason for happiness. Beatrice, pretending to be surprised by Elisa's reaction, continued to act as if she didn't understand the source of the irritation, clearly enjoying the attention she was receiving from Enrique. Laura watched the situation from a distance, feeling conflicted. She couldn't help but feel pain, knowing that while Elisa and Enrique's children would be raised with love and care, her own baby would have only her. The future felt uncertain and lonely. Sometimes, Laura and Beatrice talked about the challenges and fears of pregnancy, but always in private, away from the watchful eyes of the family. Tragedy was soon to strike. About a month before the babies were due, something unexpected happened. That day, Enrique went out on business and returned late. During the night, Laura heard a heated argument between Elisa and Beatrice. Remembering Olivia's warnings, Laura withdrew to the guest house, determined to stay out of it. The next morning, Olivia prepared Beatrice's usual breakfast. But when Laura went to wake her, she found the room empty and the bed untouched. Beatrice had disappeared. Laura, worried, informed the homeowners, who soon discovered that Beatrice had fled during the night, taking only a few documents and personal belongings. No one knew where she had gone. Enrique, visibly distressed, said, "How could this happen? Where did Beatrice go? We haven't even completed the agreed payment. She violated the contract and will face legal consequences. And what if something happens to our babies? The delivery is so close. Why did this have to happen to our family? How can someone be so irresponsible?" Although Elisa seemed equally shaken, Laura could tell from her subtle expressions that she was relieved by Beatrice's escape. The atmosphere in the house became unbearably tense. Laura, already feeling the weight of her pregnancy and the difficulties of continuing with her tasks, realized it was time to leave. She needed to find a safe place to prepare for the birth of her child. Enrique, despite all the chaos, was generous enough to compensate Laura financially, allowing her to rent a small room where she could settle and face the challenges ahead. Laura sat alone in the tiny, cramped room she had rented, a space that barely seemed habitable, surrounded by the weight of her own sadness. Her thoughts drifted back to Miguel and the betrayal she had endured. The pain of all she had lost hit her hard. She desperately wanted to return to her hometown, to the comfort of her grandmother's home, but the future was uncertain, and she felt lost, unsure of what to do next. A week later, in the dead of night, Laura began to experience sharp abdominal pains, accompanied by heavy bleeding. Desperate, she managed to call an ambulance, but when she opened the door, she lost consciousness. When she woke up in the hospital, she learned that she had gone through a complicated preterm delivery. Unfortunately, her baby did not survive, and the doctors had fought to save her life. Laura was devastated, silently crying, feeling empty and shattered. Her breasts were engorged with milk, causing physical pain that mirrored her emotional agony. She wanted to flee from the hospital, feeling the pitying and compassionate gazes around her as a constant reminder of her failure to bring a healthy baby into the world. However, the doctors insisted that Laura needed to stay in the hospital to receive proper postpartum care. The sound of newborns crying, the smiles of new mothers, and the joy she would never experience tore her apart inside. Laura turned her back to the wall, trying to hold back her tears, but the sadness was overwhelming. That afternoon, an older nurse approached her with a gentle expression and said softly, "Laura, at the same time you were in labor, another woman gave birth to triplets. All were born healthy but underweight, so they are in the special care unit. Incredibly, this woman refused to hold them or even look at them. She said she didn't want them and left the hospital, abandoning them. You could breastfeed them. You have milk, and it would make a big difference for these babies. It would help them grow stronger faster." Laura lifted her tear-stained face and asked incredulously, "How can someone abandon their own children while others, like me, lose theirs so cruelly? Where is the justice in this world? What is the name of this woman? I will breastfeed these babies. I need to do this. You understand? I can't hold my own baby, but I can help these little ones. It will bring me some comfort." The nurse, with a look full of understanding, replied, "I understand, Laura. I am a mother too and can see how much you are suffering. The woman's name is Beatrice. Do you know her? Perhaps there is someone in her family who can care for the babies. They need a home, care, and love, not to be left in an orphanage." "Yes, I know that woman. The father of these children is desperate to find them. I'll call Enrique right now. But first, I need to feed the babies," Laura said with renewed determination. She carefully picked up one of the babies and positioned it at her breast. The newborn, guided by instinct, began to nurse vigorously. Laura felt a mix of pain and comfort as tears silently streamed down her face. Feeding the 3 babies brought Laura an unexpected sense of peace. The closeness with the little ones helped ease the pain that plagued her, and she decided to continue going to the hospital to feed them at the designated times. The connection she felt with those babies gave her strength even amidst her grief. Holding each of them and stroking their tiny hands, Laura found temporary relief from the tragedy she faced. However, some nurses expressed concern about Laura's decision. The older nurse said, "Laura, have you thought this through before allowing Laura to breastfeed these babies? We know it's good for the children, but what about her? How will Laura handle the separation from them later? She just lost her own child, and this could be devastating." The next day, Laura contacted Olivia and explained the situation, asking that Enrique be informed directly without involving Elisa. Within half an hour, Enrique called Laura, and his voice conveyed the emotion he felt. "Laura, you have no idea how much this means to me. Where are you? I'm on my way to the hospital right now. I couldn't believe it when I heard that my children were safe. You've given me the best news I could have received. Don't worry, Enrique. Your babies are safe. I'm taking care of them and feeding them with my milk. They're doing well. You're a fortunate man. But I lost my child, and now I'm lost. Sorry to talk about this. I'm very hurt," Laura replied, her voice choked with pain. Enrique arrived at the hospital quickly and, after a lengthy discussion with the administrator, presented the contract proving that Beatrice had been the surrogate for his children. The hospital agreed to hand over the children to him, and Enrique, deeply grateful, decided to offer Laura an opportunity to move forward. "Laura, I'm so sorry for your loss. I know it must be hard, but you need to think about how to move forward. I want you to continue working for my family, but in a new role. I'd like you to be the wet nurse and nanny for my children. I can't imagine anyone more suited for this role. You're reliable, dedicated, and you've cared for my children as if they were your own. I want to reward you for this, but I understand if it's too painful for you and you'd prefer to decline," Enrique said. "I accept," Laura replied firmly. "Taking care of these babies brings me some peace. For a moment, I can forget the pain of losing my child. And since I still have milk, I can continue feeding your children. Thank you for this opportunity, Enrique. But I also need to ask for your help with one last thing. Could you help me arrange my son's funeral? I don't know where to start, and I'm scared." Enrique, understanding the gravity of the request, promptly agreed. He made all the necessary arrangements, working with a funeral home to ensure Laura could say goodbye to her son in a dignified manner, which was extremely important to her. Over time, Enrique's babies grew up healthy, and Laura gradually regained her physical and emotional strength. On the day of her hospital discharge, Laura helped prepare the children for their departure. Enrique arrived in a luxury car, bringing with him a large bouquet of flowers and gifts for the doctors who had cared for his children. Laura, alongside Enrique, helped carry the babies to the car, while Enrique proudly held his daughter in his arms. "Where is the children's mother? She didn't come to the hospital? This is an important moment for your family," Laura asked, curious. Enrique responded with a melancholic tone. "Unfortunately, my wife had to take an unavoidable business trip. She'll be back tomorrow. We'll get everything ready for her arrival. In the meantime, I'd like you to come home with us. You've been a true guardian for our children. We're lucky to have found you. When Elisa returns, we'll finally be a complete and strong family." Across the street, a woman working at a nearby shop watched Laura and Enrique with interest, surprised by the scene. She immediately called Olivia, the farmer's wife and her close friend, to share the news. "Olivia, you won't believe what I just saw. Laura, the one who used to be with your son, is at the hospital with an attractive man. And guess what? It looks like she gave birth to triplets." This man can't stop smiling beside her. It seems you were right to keep her away from your son. Maybe these children were never his. She's smarter than we thought and now found another man, a businessman. Upon hearing this, Eloa, who was nearby, decided to tell Miguel. He still couldn't forget Laura, even after everything that had happened. What started as an adventure for him had turned into something deeper. And since she left, he realized how much he missed her. No other woman could fill the void Laura had left. He wanted to hear her laughter again, feel the love they shared. Now, however, it seemed too late. Laura was with another man, and her children would have another father. He assumed Laura had given birth to the triplets and felt even more guilty about how he had treated her. Meanwhile, Laura continued working for Enrique's family, dedicating all her time to the babies. She adapted surprisingly well to caring for the triplets, finding genuine joy in looking after them. In the evenings, when Enrique and Elisa returned from work, they spent some time with the children. Enrique loved playing with the babies, kissing their tiny feet, and even bathing them. Elisa, on the other hand, avoided prolonged contact, and her irritation was evident. Enrique noticed this behavior, and it created tension between the couple. Elisa, look at how Bianca makes little bubbles with her lips. So adorable. And Adelon and Alador are always together, as if they know they're brothers. Do you notice how their personalities are already so distinct? Bianca is calm, while the boys are more demanding. Darling, pick up Bianca. She's crying. Why do you treat the babies like this? Don't you love them? Enrique asked seriously. Elisa, trying to hide her discomfort, hesitantly picked up Bianca, but the girl started crying even more, and Elisa quickly put her back on the couch, saying, Enrique, why do you say that? Of course, I love our children, but I just need time to get used to them. I'm so tired from work, with all the meetings and negotiations. The nanny is doing a great job. When they're a little older, I'll take care of their education. Enrique, already at his limit, replied with frustration. I don't understand you, Elisa. I thought that when the children were born, you would leave work to dedicate yourself to them. Now, you're saying they need to grow up first. Can't be like this. The children need a mother, not just a nanny. Laura is here to help, but she can't be the mother of our children. This is not the family I imagined. Sensing the seriousness of the situation, Elisa tried to calm Enrique down. You're right. I'll take a leave from work tomorrow and stay home for a few weeks to get used to the children. Everything will be fine. Don't worry. We are a family, and I'll do my best to make this work. Elisa did indeed take leave from work and began portraying herself as a devoted mother. But this act was just to deceive her husband. As the children grew, Laura continued to nurse and care for them with genuine affection. Elisa, however, spent a lot of time on the phone with someone named Gregorio, and before Enrique came home from work, she often went out and returned in a visibly better mood. Laura began to notice something strange about the baby's behavior. When they were with her, they were lively, cried loudly, played enthusiastically, and smiled. But when Elisa brought them back home, the babies became lethargic and slept for long periods. This sudden change in their energy worried Laura deeply, as she loved the babies as if they were her own. She remembered Olivia's advice about not getting involved in family matters, but her concern for the children was too great to ignore. One day, she decided to tell Enrique everything. To her surprise, Enrique reacted calmly. Thank you, Laura, for telling me. I've noticed strange behaviors in Elisa lately as well. I'll look into it. Please continue taking care of the children. He responded, grateful. Though relieved, Laura decided to stay cautious when dealing with Elisa. On a day off, while Elisa was out with the children, Enrique installed small cameras in the baby's room and the kitchen. He was determined to find out what was really happening while he was at work. Days later, while reviewing the footage, he was shocked to hear a conversation between Elisa and a man. "Wait, darling, don't be angry. I'll meet him as soon as I put these kids to bed. You have no idea how tired I am of all this. I don't love them. They feel like strangers to me, and I just can't get used to them. It's good that my husband doesn't suspect anything. He doesn't even realize that I don't love him." Elisa laughed. Enrique felt his anger rising within him. Later in the recordings, Enrique saw something even more disturbing. While in the kitchen, Elisa opened a jar of baby food, looked around to make sure no one was watching, and then took a different jar from a cabinet. She added a bit of powder to the puree, mixed it carefully, and fed the children. Enrique noted where she hid the jar and decided to send it for analysis. The results came back quickly. The powder was a high dose of sedative. Furious, Enrique confronted Elisa. "You're despicable. I know everything. You have a lover. How could you betray me? You said you wanted children, and now you're trying to kill them. Why are you putting sedatives in their food? Answer me. We're getting divorced." Instead of being intimidated, Elisa stood up from the bed with a defiant look. "You finally figured it out." "Yes, I love Gregorio, and I'm happy with him. In his house, there are no crying children all the time. I never wanted these 3 kids. It's unbearable. They cry constantly, one after the other. This isn't happiness. It's a punishment. I'm leaving. I've wanted to do this for a long time, and I'm not a criminal. I didn't put poison in their food. I just made them sleep a little longer, and the house was peaceful. I'm not going to lose my youth and beauty taking care of these kids. If I stay with you, I'll become a bitter and unhappy woman." That same day, Elisa left Enrique's house. He was deeply shaken and immediately filed for divorce. Despite the sadness that lingered over him, Laura and the other staff felt a subtle relief, as the atmosphere in the house changed without Elisa's constant criticism and reprimands. Months passed, and during that time, Laura grew closer to Enrique. The children, whenever they saw her, reached out their arms and babbled something that sounded like, "Mama." Enrique began to see Laura in a completely new light. He realized how much she genuinely loved the children, how she was an excellent homemaker, and that he couldn't find a better mother for his children. That's when he decided to propose to Laura. "Laura, open this box," Enrique said with a gentle smile. "Inside, there's an engagement ring. I want you to be my wife as soon as I divorce Elisa. I was deceived for so long, thinking I had chosen the right partner. I believed that a wife needed to be sophisticated and intelligent to accompany me to business events. But now I see that true happiness lies in having a companion who is a good mother, kind, and dedicated. I didn't even realize when I fell in love with you, but it's with you that I want to spend the rest of my life." Laura could hardly believe her happiness. Surprised and emotional, tears streamed down her face as she responded, "Enrique, is this not a joke? I never imagined that a simple girl like me could win the heart of a man as successful as you. I can't imagine my life without Bianca, Adelon, and Alader. I accept to be your wife. Let's visit my grandmother with the children. It's been so long since I've seen her, and I want to tell her personally and invite her to our wedding. Would you mind? She's the only family I have. My grandmother raised me on her own and has always been like a mother to me," Laura explained. Enrique, in a caring gesture, embraced her for the first time and replied, "Of course, we can go tomorrow. I'm eager to meet her and thank her for raising such a wonderful granddaughter. And if she wishes, we can invite her to live with us. Our house is big, and there's plenty of room. It must be hard for her to manage everything on her own now." Laura, with a genuine smile, kissed Enrique and said emotionally, "You're an amazing man. I often think about how she must be there alone. I live far away now, and she has health problems like high blood pressure and diabetes. I'm sure she'll be happy to see us." The next day, Enrique's new family set off to visit Laura's grandmother. As they entered the small town, Laura was flooded with memories of her childhood and youth. She realized that her feelings for Miguel had completely vanished. Now her heart belonged to Enrique. The townspeople, curious, watched as the luxury car arrived and parked. Nervous, Laura opened the gate to her grandmother's house. In the yard, a dog that recognized Laura ran up to her, jumping and wagging its tail with happiness. Her grandmother, dressed in simple, warm clothes, came out from the porch and, upon seeing her granddaughter, rushed to embrace her with joy. "Laura, how wonderful to see you. You finally came to visit. I've been watching through the window, waiting for you. How long has it been since you were last here? And these children, are they my great-grandchildren? How adorable. And is this your husband? You didn't tell me any of this on the phone. Aren't you ashamed? Come in. I've already got soup ready. Let's have lunch together. You must be starving after such a long trip." The grandmother lovingly set the table, and everyone sat down to eat and get to know each other better. Laura was worried that Enrique wouldn't like the simplicity of the small house, but to her surprise, he found the visit charming. He ate enthusiastically, chatted at length with her grandmother, and told her all about his life and how he fell in love with Laura. "Your story sounds like something out of a soap opera," the grandmother remarked, smiling. "My poor granddaughter, it was so tough for her in this town. And these children are so beautiful. I'm happy, Enrique, that everything is now well with you, but I regret what Laura went through. After all, she lost a child when she left for the city, and she didn't tell me anything about it. If I had known she was pregnant, I wouldn't have let her go. So now she works as a nanny for you, is that right?" Enrique cleared his throat before continuing. "Sophia, we're not just here for a visit. I want to ask for your blessing. Laura and I have fallen in love and want to get married to build a family together. She cares for my children with so much love, as if they were her own. We're very happy, and I want to know if you agree with this." The grandmother, visibly concerned, responded, "I worry about you both. What if the woman who gave birth to these children suddenly shows up and wants to see them or take them away? Or if your ex-wife, who is legally their mother, decides to claim them? I'm afraid Laura might suffer again. We need to resolve this before anything happens." Enrique, trying to reassure her, explained, "Sophia, I understand your concern, but I can assure you that won't happen. Elisa, my ex-wife, never wanted these children. She herself said she was relieved to be rid of them. And the surrogate mother, Beatrice, is an unstable person. During the pregnancy, she ran away, broke the contract, and when she gave birth, she left a letter of relinquishment at the hospital. These children mean nothing to her." Suddenly, Sophia's face went pale, her eyes wide open. "Did you say the surrogate mother's name is Beatrice? It can't be." Before she could finish, she fainted, clutching her chest. Laura and Enrique were terrified and quickly splashed water on her face, trying to revive her. "Grandma, what happened? Please don't worry so much. You have a weak heart. I'm sorry. It's my fault," Laura said, crying as she tried to calm her grandmother. Finally, Sophia opened her eyes, drank some water with trembling hands, sighed deeply, and began to speak softly. "Laura, you're not to blame for anything. The mistake was mine. I never told you the truth about your mother. This Beatrice, she's your half-sister. It's an incredible coincidence. Your mother, my daughter, was a troubled woman. Maybe I wasn't the mother I should have been to her. She got involved with many men and moved to the big city early on. She liked to drink and party at others' expense. When you were 3 months old, she brought you to me, saying she didn't know who your father was. She promised to change her life and asked to come back home. I forgave her and we tried to live together again, but she stayed only a week. Then, she asked me to take care of you, saying she needed to take care of something urgent in the city. I agreed and she left, leaving you with me forever. I was furious, but Laura, I loved you as if you were my own daughter. Sophia continued, her voice trembling. Later, I learned that my daughter had another daughter, Beatrice, with another man. She started drinking even more and eventually left her in an orphanage. I was devastated when I found out. I couldn't understand how my daughter could do that. At first, I thought about finding Beatrice, but then I became scared. I was already old, without resources, and didn't know if I could raise 2 children. I hated my daughter for what she had done. She lived for another 5 years and died of liver problems. I buried her, but I never forgave myself for not doing more. And I still feel ashamed for not going after Beatrice. Sophia paused, trying to control her tears. I couldn't tell you all this before, Laura, so I lied, saying your mother loved you very much and died of a serious illness. I didn't want you to grow up hating your mother. But now, hearing from Enrique about who gave birth to your siblings, I felt awful. How I wish I could see my other granddaughter, hug her, and tell her everything. Laura was shaken by the revelation. She hugged her grandmother tightly and said, "Grandma, you're not to blame for anything. Everyone is responsible for their own choices, and I hold no grudge against my mother. She gave me life, and it was your love and care that made me the person I am today. Thank you for everything. I also really want to find my biological sister. It's amazing, but we actually talked a bit when she was at Enrique's house. But where is she now? I don't know anything about her whereabouts." Enrique was silent for a few moments, thinking. Then he said firmly, "Although I'm still upset with what my children's surrogate mother, your sister, did, I feel we need to find her. I want to understand why she ran away before giving birth. I went through terrible days worrying about the kids, and she never got paid for carrying the pregnancy to term. It doesn't make sense. Why run away and then abandon the babies? I think we should try to find her. I'll hire detectives to track her down. Maybe we can get some answers." Laura, touched, replied, "Thank you, Enrique." Turning to her grandmother, she continued, "Grandma, we want you to come live with us. The house is big, and I would feel much more at ease knowing you're nearby. You wouldn't have to worry about anything. Just enjoy your life with us." Sophia, with tears in her eyes, responded, "Oh, thank you, dear. I won't refuse this offer. I'm tired of living alone in this house. It will be wonderful to be with you and help with the children, but I can't leave my dog and cat behind. They've been my companions for so many years." Enrique smiled and said gently, "Don't worry, we'll take everyone. We have a large garden with enough space for all of them. Sophia, we want you to feel at home with us. And I also wanted to thank you for raising such an incredible granddaughter as Laura. Now we're a family, and that's how we should stay." A week later, Sophia moved into Laura and Enrique's home. She was delighted, always admiring the beautiful house and the comfortable room where she now lived. The children quickly grew fond of her. Sophia told stories and sang songs, filling the house with joy. Laura and Enrique were busy with wedding preparations, having already booked a restaurant and discussing the menu details, when they received a call from the detectives. "We found Beatrice," the detective reported. "She's at the agency but refuses to meet with Enrique. She's very afraid that he won't forgive her for running away, but she really wants to see her sister. She's eagerly waiting for it." Laura could barely contain her excitement upon hearing the news and told Enrique, "I'm going to the detective agency right now. I want to convince Beatrice to come home with us. She doesn't even know that Grandma is with us. I just ask one thing, my love. Don't judge her too harshly. I'm sure there was a reason she ran away, something deeper. And in the end, everything worked out. We have a family now. The kids are safe and happy. Let's forgive her. After all, she's my sister and deserves a chance. Enrique hesitated but replied, "We'll see." Laura went to the detective agency and met Beatrice, who was visibly nervous. The two embraced and cried together, as if they were children again. "My sister, I can't believe I finally found you. Grandma told me about you. Back then, at Enrique's house, something brought us closer. It wasn't a coincidence. Felt strange at the time, but we started talking so easily. I want to know everything about you. You grew up in an orphanage, right? It must have been very hard. Do you remember our mother? I don't remember her. Grandma raised me. She always wanted to find you, but was afraid she wouldn't be able to support us. Please don't hold a grudge against her. She suffered a lot for not being able to take care of you." Beatrice, sighing deeply, responded, "Laura, I'm also very happy to finally have you in my life. I don't remember our mother, but I was told she left me at the orphanage, drunk and crying. I was adopted by wonderful people who I've always considered my real parents. But that woman who gave birth to me and abandoned me, I can't call her my mother. As for Grandma, I'm not angry with her. I really want to meet her. About a year ago, my adoptive father was diagnosed with cancer. He and my mother were simple people. She was an accountant and he was an electrician. We didn't have the money for expensive treatment. When the insurance didn't cover the necessary treatment, I decided to become a surrogate to help him. I passed the exams and was added to the database. Soon after, I was contacted by Enrique's family. At first, it seemed like an easy solution. Carry someone else's children and then give them up. But being pregnant with triplets was extremely difficult, and realizing that I would have to give birth and then hand them over was unbearable. During the pregnancy, I felt the babies moving inside me, and even though I knew they weren't mine, I couldn't help but form a bond. But at Enrique's house, I felt like I was just an incubator, and it hurt me deeply. I even tried to seduce Enrique, thinking it was strange that he was the father of the babies but never touched me. However, he only talked about the children, caressed my belly, and dreamed about the day he would see them. I wasn't prepared for that. His wife, Elisa, started to intimidate me, as if I were a threat. She didn't want those children and was afraid Enrique would fall in love with me. That night, Elisa threatened me, saying that if I disappeared, she would pay me well, but if I stayed, she would deal with both me and the babies. I was terrified and fled, desperately needing the money. I managed to save my father by using the money for his surgery, and he's now in remission. But when I went into labor, a friend called emergency services, and I was taken to the hospital. I knew I couldn't go home with 3 babies. My father would have been mortified, so I rejected the babies at the hospital. I still feel like a terrible person for that. I broke the contract, left the children, and deceived Enrique. I simply didn't know what to do. That's why I'm afraid to go to Enrique's house. I don't know how to face him. Laura, you were also pregnant, right? Was it a boy or a girl? Laura couldn't hold back her tears as she remembered the dark days. I went through a lot of pain. My baby didn't survive the birth, but somehow, I ended up becoming the wet nurse and nanny for Enrique's children. And now I'm their mother, and soon Enrique and I will be married. Sister, can I give you some advice? You should ask Enrique for forgiveness. It's the right thing to do, and I believe he will forgive you. Think about it, and know that Grandma is waiting for you at home. Decide and come with us. We're a family now. You can't hide from Enrique forever. We're all waiting for you, Beatrice. But now I have to go. The kids are waiting for me. Before I leave, I want to ask you an important question. Do you regret giving up the babies, even knowing they weren't biologically yours? After all, you were the one who brought them into the world. Beatrice shook her head and replied calmly, "You're right, they're not my children. I realized that right after they were born. I didn't feel any maternal instinct, so don't worry. I won't cause any problems. I don't have any rights to these children, and I'm happy that you've become their mother. You're loving and caring, and I'm sure the kids are in good hands with you. I also hope to find my own path and maybe someday someone special. But for now, I don't want children, mine or anyone else's. I'll focus on my education and building a career." 2 weeks passed, and both Laura and Grandma were growing increasingly worried as Beatrice still hadn't shown up. Laura was sad, wanting to get closer and build a relationship with her sister. "I knew she wouldn't come," Enrique said, concerned. "She seemed distant from the start. She doesn't care about you or Grandma." But one day the doorbell rang. Laura opened the door and was surprised to see Beatrice. They hugged, and Laura, smiling, said, "I'm so glad you decided to come. Let me introduce you to Grandma." Beatrice looked around and saw the 3 babies happily playing in a playpen, babbling and engrossed in their games. She observed the children and realized she didn't feel any emotional connection with them. To Beatrice, they were just adorable babies. Nothing more. "Wait," she said softly. "I want to talk to Enrique first. Maybe he doesn't want me to stay. I'll understand if he decides that. After all, it's my fault." Laura took Beatrice to Enrique's office, where he was focused on his financial reports. Upon seeing Beatrice, he frowned and took off his glasses. Laura left the office, giving them the space they needed to talk. Beatrice sincerely began, "Enrique, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have run away from that house, but I was lost, and your wife threatened me. She said if I disappeared, she would pay me a good amount of money, but if I stayed, she would do something to me and the babies. I was terrified and ran away. Please forgive me. I know I was irresponsible." Enrique put his glasses on the table and replied, "Beatrice, I was nearly driven mad with worry about the babies. Why didn't you tell me everything from the start? I would have dealt with the situation with my wife, but that's in the past now. I'm glad that in the end, everything worked out. Laura asked me to forgive you so you can come whenever you want. I don't mind. And even though you broke the contract, the children are here, so I want to pay you the remaining money I owe you. To which account should I transfer the money?" "No, I don't want the money. I accepted the deal with your wife. She paid me well for leaving that night. You don't owe me anything. What's most important to me is your forgiveness. After everything that happened, I don't want children for a long time, and I'll never be a surrogate again. It's a huge responsibility, and I wasn't prepared for it," Beatrice said sincerely. Enrique realized she was being honest. He approached, extended his hand, and said, "I'm glad you understand the